Welcome to our series on the Chief Justices of the United States. Among all the Chief Justices of the United States, none shaped the Supreme Court more profoundly than John Marshall. Serving from 1801 to 1835, his 34 years on the bench transformed the court from a marginal institution to a co-equal branch of government. Marshall was born in 1755 in rural Virginia, the son of a frontier surveyor. He grew up during the Revolutionary era, fought as an officer in George Washington's army, and studied law briefly under George Wythe. Marshall entered politics as a Federalist, strongly supporting the Constitution's promise of a strong national government. By the 1790s, he had earned recognition as a skilled lawyer and diplomat, even serving as Secretary of State under President John Adams. In 1801, on the eve of Thomas Jefferson's presidency, Adams nominated Marshall as Chief Justice. The court at the time was weak, overshadowed by Congress and the presidency, and lacking a clear voice. Marshall's task was monumental: to define the judiciary's role in the young republic. Through his leadership, the court became the ultimate interpreter of the Constitution and a central player in American politics. The defining case of Marshall's career came almost immediately: Marbury v. Madison in 1803. The issue was whether the court could compel Secretary of State James Madison to deliver a judicial appointment. Marshall's opinion held that while Marbury had a right to his commission, the court could not enforce it because the law granting that power was unconstitutional. In making that claim, Marshall announced the principle of judicial review, that it is emphatically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is. This doctrine gave the Supreme Court the authorities to strike down laws that violate the Constitution, cementing its role as guardian of constitutional limits. Marshall did not stop at judicial review. He used the court to strengthen the federal government's supremacy over the states. In McCulloch v. Maryland in 1819, the court upheld Congress's power to create a national bank, even though the Constitution did not explicitly say so. Marshall reasoned that the necessary and proper clause gave Congress implied powers to achieve legitimate ends. He also struck down Maryland's attempt to tax the bank, famously declaring, "The power to tax involves the power to destroy." The ruling confirmed federal supremacy in constitutional matters. In Gibbons v. Ogden in 1824, Marshall reinforced national authority again. The court invalidated a New York monopoly on steamboat operations, holding that Congress's power over interstate commerce was broad and exclusive. Together, these rulings laid the groundwork for a strong national economy and a flexible constitution capable of meeting new challenges. Marshall's court was not without controversy. He often clashed with Jeffersonian Republicans who feared his broad reaching of federal powers. In Cohen v. Virginia and Fletcher v. Peck, he asserted the court's power to review state court decisions and to protect contracts against state interference. Yet his record on slavery and Native American rights was more complicated. While Worcester v. Georgia in 1832 recognized the sovereignty of Cherokee lands, the decision went unenforced by President Andrew Jackson. Marshall's lofty principles sometimes outpaced the political realities of the era. John Marshall left office in 1835 after nearly 3.5 decades on the bench. By then, the Supreme Court had become the final arbiter of constitutional meaning, an institution equal to the presidency and Congress. Through judicial review, federal supremacy, and the doctrine of implied powers, Marshall turned the court into the engine of constitutional development. His legacy endures in every major decision where the Supreme Court speaks with authority over the meaning of the Constitution. John Marshall was and remains the architect of the judicial power in the United States.